Welcome to the Pop Docs Podcast. My name is Joseph. I am a doctor in degree only.
And I'm Deni, and I'm a doctor in name only, and we're diagnosing the state of pop culture.
We are the Pop Docs, and our clinic is now open. Welcome to another episode of the Pop Docs Podcast. I am Joseph, one half of the Pop Docs, joined, as always, by my sister Deni, the other half of the Pop Docs. Deni, how is your day going?
Hello, my day is going great. It's been a while. Couple months. Busy
it has
times,
been a while.
Man. Yeah, busy time. Holidays are upon us. Just constant stuff to do. Halloween just passed. Just lots of stuff to do nowadays.
My favorite time of the year. It actually kind of feels like fall out here in Florida. It's kind of cool-ish.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Very humid at the moment.
The palm trees, fronds are kind of turning colors out here. But yes, Halloween has passed. But Hallmark's Countdown to Christmas is on TV, which means the Christmas season's officially here. There is Christmas music channels on Sirius XM radio that I rock to every morning I go to work during my commute. So it is the best time of the year, in my opinion. But even though Halloween has passed, we're still going to celebrate spooky season in this episode because, yes, I read a horror book, and I think it is the first horror book I have ever read outside of Goosebumps. So we've talked in this podcast, I believe, previously of our love of Goosebumps. By the way, there's a new Goosebumps movie. Have you seen the new Goosebumps movie yet? On Hulu, I think?
Show?
Or no, it's Disney Plus.
Disney Plus. I think it's an actual show because there's episodes to it. I think. I could be wrong. But one of my coworkers
easy to find
watched it, and she actually said it was good. I have not checked it out, though, because the original television show is the best one, in my opinion. And I didn't like the Jack Black version at all. I tried to watch it and I turned it off.
Oh, I don't remember that one. So obviously I didn't watch it or even try.
Very quickly. So I'm not very confident in this just because, past experiences. But
this is looking good though. So you're right. It is a TV series. I thought it was a movie. But Justin Long's in it. I like Justin Long as an actor.
Justin Long's good.
Yeah, I don't recognize anybody else by name, at least. But apparently it's 9 episodes. The poster on Wikipedia is got Slappy in the center. Have you seen that? I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah. And apparently the episode titles are all names of Goosebump books.
The original Goosebump books.
Yeah. So there are 9 episodes. Wait. 10 episodes. Sorry, 10 episodes. They haven't gotten to the 10th episode. Apparently they've aired 9. But here they are. These it's funny now that seeing these title names, I'm starting to remember these books. But Say Cheese and Die is the pilot. The Haunted Mask. Wasn't that the one with the cover with the really scary green mask the little boy was holding up? Oh, that cover terrified me as a child.
It fuses to your face and you become the creature or whatever.
Yeah, the horror version of The Mask movie. Would you carry? Yeah, that thing scared me when I was a child. The Cuckoo Clock of Doom, which I completely forgot about until just now. Go Eat Worms. I remember that one. Yeah. Reader Beware, which wasn't that in the original Goosebumps intro? Wasn't it Reader Beware? You're in for a scare. But I assume maybe for the TV shows, Watcher Beware. It's all coming back. It's all coming back. The Night of the Living Dummy. Give Yourself Goosebumps. You Can't Scare Me. And Night of the Living Dummy Part 2. So Slappy's getting double dipping here, getting a little double action of Slappy. And then the finale is called Welcome to Horrorland.
You know what's awesome is that as you read those, I could literally picture every single book cover of it. And I just think I think that speaks volumes to how book cover art is can be so memorable and really lend itself to the story. Because literally I was oh my God, I remember that one. I remember that one.
They're also cool because they had the kind of the actual goosebumps on the book. Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
Also, you could touch and feel the book as well as be terrified by the visuals. Are you going to encourage your daughter to read Goosebumps when she's at that age?
I think so.
I think she'll like Goosebumps. I mean, she,
I think she'll love
likes
it.
Halloween, likes Nightmare Before Christmas.
She likes scary things. She dresses up as villains all the time. She was
little Ursula.
Maleficent. Yeah, the other day.
Oh gosh.
I think she will like them when she grows up.
You also need to try and get her into Animorphs.
Animorphs.
Certainly didn't have the staying power of Goosebumps, but it was still awesome.
Maybe. We'll see about that one. But Goosebump books, like the originals, they are hard to come by in bookstores. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Even used bookstores?
Even used bookstores.
Really?
They're actually kind of pricey. Mm-hmm. They can.
We should have kept ours.
Especially certain ones. Like certain ones, I think were more like certain ones are hard to find. So
that one I can.
Them, I'm like,
that I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the very first Goosebump books or Goosebump book? I guess because I don't.
Was that
the second? I thought the second one was the one with the dad who was a scientist but was really like a plant person. Like I think it was like Don't Go in the Basement or something like that.
Oh my god, I was right. The first one is Welcome to Dead House.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure it's the house one.
The house one.
I just remember a house on the cover.
I just pulled up the cover. Yeah, okay, I remember this now. I didn't until I looked at the cover. Stay Out of the Basement. There you go. Followed by Stay Out of the Basement. For whatever reason, I remember Stay Out of the Basement. Probably because I remember that episode in the show. That
episode was really good. It was creepy and so good.
The best one, though, in my opinion, is still the camp one. I forget, was it Camp Nowhere or Camp something or other? That was great. About. Great twist ending. Welcome to Camp Nightmare. There you go. Oh. Anyway, we're got sidetracked. Way off onto a Goosebumps tangent here. But yes, so I've read my first horror book since my youth. So we're going to talk about it. It is, I can't remember if I've said it now. We spent so much time on Goosebumps. I've already forgotten my introduction, but it was The Mist, a novella, to be fair, which you recommended that I read to dip my toe into the horror genre because I am not a horror fan, whether in film, TV, print, which we'll get to. We'll talk about the horror genre. We'll talk about The Mist. That's our main segment for this particular podcast episode in honor of spooky season and Halloween. But before that, we found on the internet that we're going to dive into. It's really, for this episode, as I told you before we started recording, it's really I want to talk about. So I'm going to throw several topics at you that I think are interesting to get your take, and we'll have a conversation about. I have 5 I want to talk about. So let's go ahead and jump into I want to talk about / what I found on the internet.
Okay.
And the first one is, I think, something to be joyous about, is Hollywood is going back to work. The strikes are now over. The actors and the writers have come to agreements with the studios, and so things apparently are getting back online. Related to this, I saw that apparently Stranger Things is like kicking right into gear for their final season.
They were probably just like waiting. They were like,
yeah.
Okay, instantly start going.
I'm sure all the sets were like done and whatever. Yeah. Well, apparently the guy that plays Hopper, David Harbour, said something effective as soon as like the deal was approved or inked or whatever it takes to get across the finish line. He immediately got a call from some producer, someone related to Stranger Things, like, so can you be on a flight by Monday to start filming? So the studios are desperate and to get back to work. So exciting. Looking forward to new content, to use the C word, content.
Maybe
coming
we'll
our
finally
way.
Get some more confirmed new seasons. Sorry.
Well, that's a good segue because the second topic related, all these are going to be related in some way, is House of the Dragon was announced. Season 2 debuting next summer sometime. Summer of 2024, it's coming back, and the Targaryen Civil War presumably is afoot. I assume we're going to be thrown right into the Civil War. And it was interesting because this was actually announced before the actors' strike ended. And so I forget exactly how much they had to film before the strikes or if they were able to keep filming, whatever. Either way, it's coming back. Your thoughts?
It is. Well, I'm super stoked because I loved the first season and I loved the book. So I'm excited to see how they will continue the story into the second season with the war that's happening. And it's funny because this past week I was actually talking to someone I work with who's also a fan of the show. And we were talking about if this next season would be as good as the last season without, last season had that incredible time jump. So it made it very interesting to go from, them younger and then older, and then just the dynamic that happened between it. So extreme shifts in like personality. So it'll be interesting to see how the second season does with presumably like the same cast. Obviously, some new characters probably.
No more Patty. Patty's.
No more Patty.
Well, I guess they could do flashbacks with Patty.
So, I mean, I think it's still going to be phenomenal, but it'll be interesting to see how it's received compared to the first one, because I feel like the casting and the actors themselves got so much praise just for that first season.
And well deserved.
Interesting. And 100% well deserved. But it'll be interesting to see if the second season gets the same kind of accolades for it, just because it's the same cast and now it's going into like a lot of fantasy driven stuff, a lot of more dragon action, essentially, if they go that route.
We'll see.
A lot of like dragon battles and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how people receive it.
Well, it's interesting because that was my first thought was, what's the budget of this thing? Because I hope it went up. I think it would have to, because we had some dragon action in the first season, but I think it was fairly minimal. And I would assume in part because
iconic
of the cost
within that first time frame.
Yeah. Or just, a dragon perched on a little mountain or a hill or something. I think there were 3 scenes with people flying. I guess maybe 4. Looking back at it, but I assume the budget has to be higher because I assume there's gonna be dragons burning people throughout this season. I mean, if you're involved in a civil war and you each have dragons on your side, you're gonna be using the dragons. I would imagine.
A lot of dragon battles.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. So very exciting, very exciting to get House of the Dragon back. And hopefully it will actually debut in the summer, and hopefully near the beginning of the summer. But kind of related to that is another show that is announced to be coming back with a second season, Arcane, season 2. Do you have any idea what Arcane is? You never heard of Arcane?
Nope.
I've talked about Arcane before.
Have you?
Yeah. It is.
I don't remember.
It's wonderful. It's an adaptation of League of Legends. Have you heard of League of Legends?
Oh, okay. Yes, now it's clicking. I do remember talking about this.
It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix, and it's an animated show. Really cool animation style, I think. Imagine Dragons get to cameo in it. They did the theme song or the intro song. I think it's Enemy by Imagine Dragons, and there's a sequence where they're animated in there rocking out. But it's really good. The first season was incredible, and it's been 3 years since it came out, and I believe Netflix announced that it had been greenlit for season 2 for a long time now, and it's now officially coming next November.
Oh wow, okay.
So a year from now, still very excited.
That's exciting.
Even though it's a year from now.
At least it's got a time frame.
Yeah. It's got kind of a date. It's got a general date.
Date, yes.
Year and a month. Hopefully we'll get a date soon. Maybe they'll move it up. Maybe they'll be so like starved for content that they'll move it up. If it's done. Maybe it's not done, so they need this time to render it. But you need to watch Arcane. This is my way to make a pitch. You've got to watch Arcane. You've got to get a Netflix account. I don't know if you still have a Netflix account.
I have a Netflix account.
Okay, you need to get, because it is great.
Okay.
And you don't even know anything about like the game either. They did a really good job of just dropping you in and not requiring any homework to get used to the world and the characters and stuff like that. So
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
And of course I still
I'm
have
very
a
excited.
Netflix account. Bridgerton starts next month. Of course I have an account.
There's another Bridgerton season coming?
Season 3
next month?
Starts in December.
Oh,
I'm
God.
So excited.
Ugh.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
I can tell. Yeah. I'm happy for you. I'm happy. Did you watch the Queen's prequel show?
Oh. So good.
Did that live up to the main Bridgerton show?
I think so. It was different. It was different, but it was very, very good. they did some really interesting thing. And again, the casting, man, phenomenal. So
and who's up this season in season 3 here? Who's the pairing?
So this is Colin. This is the main storyline is Colin and Penelope's.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
So
she's gonna be reporting on her own ball season or whatever they call the season.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, I don't know how much they'll adapt from. They have swayed quite a bit from the book series, so it'll be interesting to see how they tell it in this. But we'll see. But I'm still very, very excited. You'll get to see a little bit of Kate and Anthony's like married life now, which is exciting.
Oh, were they the ones from the second season?
Last season. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to disappear like the Duke.
No, at least not this season. Maybe in future ones.
I don't know how we got into Bridgerton, but it is what it is.
I will take any opportunity to bring up Bridgerton.
I can tell. All right, last one I have. Okay. End of an era. Possibly. Going back to Disney Plus. Loki. Season 2. Done. Over. Finito. Finished. Concluded. Completed. I did.
Did you watch it all? Okay.
I did. Did you watch any of it?
I have not watched a single episode yet. As I told my boss the other day, because we were talking about this during lunch. Because he also watched it, and he said he found it good. And I was like, that's nice.
It's quite poignant.
My response back was, I don't have much confidence in Marvel nowadays. And with Loki being my favorite character of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe.
That's why I'm surprised you didn't watch it.
I'm nervous about watching it and then just like butchering my character storyline.
No, Loki. Look what they did to Loki.
Because I already had like a couple of issues with the first season. I enjoyed the first season, but my biggest thing, which I think we had talked about a little bit, was that his character, like the Loki that got stuck at the TVA, is the Loki that was right after the first Avengers. So he was still in like his evil Loki mindset. And you can't just instantly hit an emotional personality change by watching one video.
It was very convincing. It was in 4K.
Okay, clearly. I'm like, that's just not possible. Like that Loki had to go through like so much stuff, to actually end up being kind of like, I love my family, my brother, all this jazziness, different Loki. Like the Loki at the TVA just like instantly became like a good guy. And I was like, nah.
Not instantly. I mean, I think it took about 30 minutes of runtime.
Oh, only 30 minutes of runtime. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah,
and a female version of himself.
You don't think Owen Wilson with a mustache could convince you to be a better person? He'll even throw in a jet ski. No?
I don't think so. If you throw a jet ski.
Well, I think one of his variants is like a jet ski salesman or whatever. He's always looking, at least the first season, always looking at advertisements for jet skis. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So no, I have not watched it.
Are you going to?
I think I will eventually watch it. I just don't know.
After Bridgerton.
Okay.
Clearly.
Everything will be after Bridgerton. But okay, so did you like it though?
It was poignant.
You're hesitant.
It was okay. It was fine. It was fine.
Okay.
They're never. It still suffers from what you just. Which I think is the biggest problem with the whole premise is that this Loki. It doesn't feel like the right Loki. And I mean, I agree with you that they tried to like kind of bring back the Loki from Infinity War without having to do the hard work and the character development that Loki went through. Mm-hmm. So, but I put that aside because there's nothing they can do to change that. Sure. And just try to approach the show on where it's at. Is that the phrase? Okay. I think that's the phrase. Yeah, sure. And in that sense, it kind of works. It's just my biggest problem with it is it's very convoluted, which can happen when you get into multiverse stuff and time travel. And in this one, this isn't a spoiler because it happens in the trailer, but he slips through time. He gets yanked back and forth through time. Mm-hmm. In the first episode, and it's something that continues throughout all 6 episodes. It's not even that long, so that's the one nice thing, Dani. It's not that long. You can watch it pretty quickly, and It's okay. I mean, it's one of those things I think where the acting's always is very top notch. Everyone's really good, but the story I don't think does their acting justice.
That's a bummer.
And it's also, again, it's very, I don't really understand what's happening in the story because it's very convoluted and there's all this stuff about different timelines and multiverses, and they're like strings, and you can grab them and manipulate them that way, but they're also still universe. None of it made sense to me. And then in this episode, there is a scene very reminiscent of the first season's finale where principal characters sit down and basically explain the plot of what's happening to the audience. I mean, it's that ridiculous and convoluted that they have to, and even after that explanation, I still don't really understand what's happening. So it does have
when the characters have to like sit down and have a conversation for you to like,
when they have to check in with the audience and say, are you still with us? I mean, you've been on this ride for basically 6 hours now, a little less than 6 hours. So I guess you're still with us. And even if you're confused as hell, which I was, and that confusion still remains. See what I did there? Remains. He remains from Loki. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. Yeah. But I see where they also are trying to link this back into the main Marvel proper, the MCU. And I think in that sense, they somewhat succeeded. Like, this is one of the first shows that I think actually had an effect or should have an effect if they carry through with it. I think they're going to try. So we'll see. So would I recommend watching Loki? Yeah, for you, yes, because you really like Loki, even if you don't really agree with where he's at emotionally at this point in the journey.
Wilson is fantastic to look at.
He's great. Owen Wilson's great again. Kie Kwan is new in this season. He's really good. Yeah, he looks really Sylvie's really good in this. Some of the other supporting characters, like, they're good, but they don't have a lot to do. This season has an incredibly, you talk about dark. You were talking about dark scenes in House of Dragon. There is a similarly very dark scene. In fact, I think you could say it's one of the darkest scenes Marvel's ever had in one of its stories in this season. And there is a linkage actually to Game of Thrones because Lysa Arryn, the actress that played Lysa Arryn, is in this season.
It's cool.
There you go. So yeah, the webs, the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon stuff in Hollywood. Even though Kevin Bacon's not in either of these, at least as far as I know. But he is in Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. So he's in the MCU. There you go. For all those keeping track at home. So so I would say for you, yes, just to see kind of I assume the way they ended it actually could be a definitive ending for his character. If they want it to be. But if they continue to struggle, they're probably going to be calling him and saying, how much money do you want to come back? We need one of our old staples. We'll back up a dump truck of cash and drop in your front yard if you'll just come and reprise your role again. It's Loki. Some Loki. A Loki. We don't care. Maybe multiple Lokis. But yeah, so it was okay. It was okay. It's better than Ahsoka.
I mean, it's better than a lot of what
it's a low bar.
Out, so
yeah. Speaking of which, did you see the trailer for Echo?
No.
Do you even know what Echo is?
No, you told me it was like another character or something.
You don't even know.
Some other Marvel character.
Guarantee if Echo was in Bridgerton, you know exactly who it was, and you would know her whole backstory. You would know her whole family's genealogy, probably, and yeah.
Yep.
And with that is beep, I found on the internet and want to talk about with Deni. So there you go.
Yes.
Let's talk about it. You love horror.
I do love horror.
In like all mediums, except for
except for that weird, sketchy Sirius XM channel, radio channel you found.
Here,
so weird. Scream Radio or whatever. And it just played the weirdest music on the planet.
It wasn't even music. It was just sounds.
Random scream.
Sounds of the season. And I was so disappointed because I was thinking, oh, this is going to be like the Christmas channels are on Sirius XM. And no, I thought I was going to get some Thriller, I guess some Monster Mash. No, Claws on,
put a spell
on asphalt.
Ooh.
No,
it was like, it was very strange.
By the way, that was the best part of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween was the Sanderson sisters dance party show. What I don't remember what it was called. I Put a Spell on You show. That was definitely the best part of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween. All right. Anyway, you like horror. Why?
I do love horror. Why? I don't really know. I just have.
This is great content. I don't know.
It's not interesting whatsoever, is it? I don't know. I've just always liked it ever since.
Are you pro or con jump scares?
I'm pro.
Oh, okay.
I enjoy a good jump scare, let me tell you. There's I still remember one of the most iconic ones for me in terms of seeing like a film in the movie theater, was Robin and I's our first like movie theater date, I guess you will say, was to go see the first Insidious in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this scene in the first one where they're like sitting at the table, and then the camera pans back and it's just like the red demon face. Yeah. Oh, I literally leapt out of my chair in that moment, and I like started applauding. I was like, that was so great. That was so great. Because it was just so terrifying, and it was so good. So I'm pro jump scare, which is probably why I like Halloween Horror Nights so much too.
I couldn't take the Insidious movie seriously on so many levels, but the main issue I had with it was how goofy the demon creature, the creature at the table looked. Because every time I saw him, he reminded me of that creature from Space Ghost, Coast to Coast. There's one that looks just like him. Every time the demon in the movie popped up on screen, I just wanted to start laughing because I always thought he was gonna be, back to you, Space Ghost, or what. I don't even remember what he sounded like. I just remember the image of him, and so that scene at the dinner table when it pans over, like, oh, there's his face. Yeah, Space Ghost guy. How cool is this?
He does look like him now that you say that. It looks very much like him.
Brock or something like that. I think I don't know. I think it's the name. Let me see if I can find it. Space Ghost, Coast to Coast. Space Ghost, Coast to Coast.
It's so good.
There's like the insectoid creature, the praying mantis character. It's always cracking me up too. He was great. Brack. Yeah, Brack. B-R-A-K. Wikipedia describes it as somewhat cat-like teenage alien with large fangs.
All right. I like the description.
There you go. Yeah, he cameoed, or he had a supporting role in the Insidious movie. So, listeners, look it up. You'll see it. And you'll never be able to watch Insidious the same way again.
No.
So you're pro jump scares. Are you pro like all genres of horror? I think horror's got like just an unbelievable amount of subgenres, I think.
Mm-hmm. True.
I mean, you mentioned animal horror. With Jaws.
Animal horror.
Animal horror. Cocaine Bear? Is Cocaine Bear a horror movie? Would you put Cocaine Bear in that?
Maybe.
I just like saying Cocaine Bear.
Clearly. I don't know. A bear high on cocaine coming at me would terrify me. So maybe.
It would horrify you.
Yeah. But you remember like
Would you put Eight-Legged Freaks? Is Eight-Legged Freaks? Is that a horror movie?
It's like a horror comedy, in my opinion. Yes.
I know that's kind of like another subgenre, like horror comedy. They can also, cross other subgenres.
Yeah.
God. Did Halloween Horror Nights do a Killer Clowns from?
They did a Scare Zone, which was the best. The Scare Zone was the best. Then they did a Haunted House the next year.
I do like horror comedies. Shaun of the Dead.
Yes. Yeah.
That I really like. I do like zombie films. I mean, so the subgenre of zombie films and zombie TV shows. But I really like that because I think to a certain degree, it's like any piece of art is when it raises questions about humanity and what it means to be human, what it means to live in a community, work within a community, or not have conflict in the community. What happens when? So one of the reasons like zombie films happens when society breaks down and collapses. Yep. What does that mean? And so in that sense, that's when those horror movies, those horror books, TV shows, that's when they work for me.
Yeah.
But when it's all just about jump scares, annoying. Whenever people, it's a cliche, acting stupid, hearing a noise, I'm going to walk down into the dark basement of a purportedly haunted house or whatever. Just I just roll my eyes. I'm like, these people are so dumb.
Yeah.
I can't take it. I just can't take it.
Yeah.
I can't take all those movies. So all that stuff really annoys me. So ultimately, I hate horror with those limited exceptions.
I can understand that. A lot of horror films are not good. I will admit it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few diamonds in the rough, let's put it that way. There's a lot of just drag. But on that note about humanity and how that translates into horror, The Mist. So, because
it's segue.
I will say that I read an article that Stephen King got the inspiration for The Mist one day when he went to, I think he went to the grocery store and like the power went out while he was in the grocery store, and people just started like freaking out and like trying to figure out what they do with like
everybody's
all
losing their minds,
and it made him think like, well, what would happen if humans got trapped inside of a grocery store, and what would the dynamic be, and would they like start to create little factions within each other, the conflict, like would become their own enemies, even though like terrifying monsters are like trying to kill them. So it was an interesting inspiration that he got just about the human society and how they would react if this situation occurred. And so that's how The Mist was created, which I thought was pretty cool.
And so started from that premise, and then threw in Mist and Cthulhu monsters. So there you go.
He's a horror writer.
And set it in Maine, shockingly.
In Maine.
Imagine my surprise when I opened the book and it's Maine.
Everything's always set in Maine.
God, that state must owe him so much for making that state relevant.
Seriously. I mean, the state itself is beautiful. So
have you been there?
I have not, but Rob lived there for a year. My husband, he lived there for a full year, and he said it was beautiful. And then our parents went there, and said they went to I think Arcadia Park.
I don't remember. I remember when they went there. I don't know where they went.
So I do believe that it is beautiful. So one day I would like to go. Yeah. And you can visit, well, you can't like visit, but you can see Stephen King's house, which is pretty cool because apparently he has like a gate trellis at the front or whatever that has like spiders and like kind of creepy stuff on it, which is kind of cool. So
okay.
Touristy spot.
Well, there you go. Let me see. Actually, you know what? We have the power of the internet. King's Gate. I'm going to see if I can find it. Oh, okay. Yeah, popped right up. I see what you're saying with the spiders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Very cool. It looks, I mean, he lives in a house that looks like it would be haunted. Oh, let's get into it. Let's get into The Mist. This is only my second Stephen King book that I've ever read. The only other book I've read is The Gunslinger. And that was horrifying for unrelated reasons to the horror genre. It was ridiculously boring. It made about as much sense as Loki season 2 to me. I'm not told, I've heard that it is one of the weaker chapters in the Dark Tower series, and the Dark Tower series gets better. I believe that because I don't see how it could get worse after The Gunslinger. And now I'm just, filibustering because I don't really want to talk about horror. But here we go. Let's get back to The Mist. So I much preferred The Mist to The Gunslinger. Okay. I really did. I enjoyed 2/3 of The Mist because I felt like it took quite a while to get going.
Okay.
And so I was very bored until with the book until he got to the store. And so I was very excited that we finally got to the grocery store in the book.
That is a common theme with Stephen King, is that he can be a little too overly descriptive sometimes, and take a while to get to the more exciting stuff. Let's put it.
I mean, I like his writing from the sense that he's not descriptive in the sense of like Robert Jordan is descriptive.
Sure.
I like kind of how I like that writing style that he has. But my God, you're right. It takes a while, at least for this book. I'll trust. And the Gunslinger is basically the first third of this book, but for a couple hundred pages. The entire friggin' book, in my opinion, is like that slow slow build, and it doesn't build to anything. At least the mist builds to something. Yeah. It's not just the mist building the plot and the narrative, it builds to something too. And there's payoff. Thank God there's payoff. In
That's true. That is the thing, is that once Stephen King gets there, you're like, oh yeah, this is good. And then you're like, yes.
Thank God. The other thing I liked about The Mist, short novella. I liked that. And I will say, for a novella, he packs in a lot of punches. I mean, there's a lot going on here in this. So, generally, I liked it, enjoyed it. I don't know how many more Stephen King books I will read. I feel like I could feel compelled to read some of the big ones at some point. And that's both literally big and figuratively big, because I've seen it on your bookshelf. But I feel like I should only read the first half where they're children, because all I've ever heard is that the second half, when they're adults, regardless of like what medium it's in, is not good. So maybe I'll only read half of it. I'll read half of it. There you go. We'll see. The Shining. I feel like I should read that at some point in my life. I've also heard Pet Sematary is really good. Have you read Pet Sematary?
Yeah, that's good. I haven't seen either the original. I haven't seen the original film, the movie, or they just came out with a series, TV series.
It's like a prequel, I think, or it's supposed to be a prequel series, I think.
Yeah, it looks kind of good. But I haven't ever actually seen any of the video for that.
So I'm more inclined now, having read The Mist, to read more of his stuff.
Okay.
Than I was before.
I like it.
So there you go. Success. I guess it's a success story.
I'll consider it a win.
But if I had to grade it, I think I would probably give it a C+, maybe a B-. And it's mostly because it's just so dragged down by, in my opinion, the first 30. It's weird to say the first, because it's only like 30, 40 pages, I think, at least of the version I have, the edition I have. So it's not really that many pages. But to me, it felt like it was a couple hundred pages of just setup, and I was so over it, and almost thought about skipping ahead. But like, no, you can do this, Joseph. You can make it. You can make it. You mentioned kind of his thought process. The way I never heard that story, but I definitely see that now in the story, the inspiration for the story as written. So I think he, in that sense, very successful. I really did like the latter 2/3 of it, and the forming of the groups, the factions. We can get a little more into it when we talk spoilers here, past general thoughts. I will say, so I'll give it C+, B-, so that would be 7, 8, somewhere around there, out of 10. And I will say this, though, not as good as the movie version. Even though it's we were talking before we started recording, I actually think the movie is a very close adaptation, or very, what's the word I'm looking for? Faithful. It's a very faithful adaptation. There's only a couple changes in the movie, but one of those changes is dramatic in more ways than one that we can get into. But
it's the reason why the movie is better than the book, in my opinion.
I think it's a big reason. Yeah, absolutely. I would not disagree with you. Before we get into specifics, though, your general thoughts on The Mist.
Well,
and where it fits for you in like the Stephen King books you've read, because obviously we've been talking, you've read many more Stephen King books and novellas and stuff like that than I have. So where does this rank if you had to rank it?
Well, I give it a solid B. Okay. I enjoy this one as well. It's part of a bigger book of his short stories, and this is the one that I liked the most out of it. And I also, when you asked me to pick a book for you to read, I was like, well, okay, I gotta think of one that would work. And
one that was somewhat short too. I didn't want it. It's like 1,000 pages or whatever.
Stephen King known for fairly long novels. So the subject matter of it, I thought would be interesting to you. So I thought that would be a good fit. But I like it because you get that mix of like almost post-apocalyptic human interaction, what would happen kind of thing, which is always terrifying. And then also the terrifying aspect of like mysterious creatures that are coming out of this mist. Because I love that fantasy sci-fi kind of side of things, the perfect blend of the two in a short little novella, which I thought was great. And I know the movie was very good too, so I thought it would be interesting to compare the two. Yeah, I love it. And compared to other Stephen King books, I mean, there's other better ones in my opinion, but
well, I think
read a bunch of them, so
it's probably hard to compare. It's probably apples to oranges because obviously, like It or The Shining, full novels, he's got a lot more time, or he spends more time on the characters and everything. This is hard and fast, but not as hard and fast as the mist rolling in and everything, because the mist took a while to roll in in the book. So with that, let's talk some spoilers. Little spoiler action. Stick with the book, and then we can kind of like weave in, I guess, the movie at different perspectives. My favorite part of the book was, I don't know if this was intended. I imagine it was intended. I thought the slow rise to power, if you will, of Mrs. Carmody, the religious fanatic, the religious leader, was incredibly well done, especially given that it's a novella. And it felt believable. I didn't think it felt rushed. And to me, I thought it was very similar to The Mist itself, because part of the buildup is how long it takes the mist to finally get like across the lake from the other town, then to slowly get towards the grocery store, then to finally engulf the grocery store. And so there is this very ominous feeling. I think, again, I thought a really good job of building in this ominous feel to the start of the book. I think part of that's because I know what's coming, because I've seen the movie. I saw the movie before, obviously, the book. And so I knew the mist was coming. It was in the mist. But so I kind of that's partly why I was like, okay, get to the mist. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, this is helping to really build this ominous feel and tone and atmosphere to this. But I thought that was very similar to Mrs. Carmody's arc. Because, at the beginning, nobody believes her. No one wants to listen to her. Everyone's shouting her down when she's screaming about damnation and blood sacrifice and all this Old Testament stuff. But slowly, over the last 2/3 of the books, she gets like 2 followers. Then she has 4 followers. Then like 5 followers. And then at the very end, basically everybody but our small contingent is on her side and ready to sacrifice the child. They go for his son as the blood sacrifice, for some whatever reason. And so it felt like, to me, they built in this really interesting parallel between the approach of the mist and this existential horror and dread and buildup, with her ability to get more converts over the life of the book, over the 70 pages or 60 pages of this edition. That was, I think the strongest part, my favorite part of the book actually, was seeing that evolution, that arc, and the parallels between the mist. Because I can't remember if Stephen King said this, but it's also kind of a cliche. It's like, in horror, it's not really the existential terror or demon or zombies that are the monsters. It's really about, humanity. And the humanity is the real monster in the scenario. And in this particular case, it's kind of what happens in a post-apocalyptic environment, and when religious fervor, small r religious fervor, takes hold, because it is one way to try to grapple with the unknown and with the implications of that in this context. And because really, the monsters are there and they pop up every so often, but I think the book seems to suggest she's really the monster to be afraid of and worried about. So much so that they have to flee into the mist to escape what she's done. And obviously it's not just her, but also all the people that she inspired to join her side and try to sacrifice the last few holdouts. So that was my I think my favorite part, if you will. I just thought it was very clever and very well done. And I think the movie does a great job too. I think it's Marcia Gay Harden plays Mrs. Carmody. She's wonderful in that role in the movie. And so the movie, I thought that was one of the strengths of the adaptation as well, is that they really captured that character, that arc for that character. Yeah. So you have a favorite part of the book that you recall? Is it monster related or not monster? Is it interpersonal? Is it monster related?
I do like
as atmospherics.
I do like how they portray the monsters in it, and like the the tentacle scene I thought was interesting, because I don't think you just kind of get the sense of like a tentacle monster, but you don't get to see like the full monster.
You just see the tentacles.
The tentacles. So
and they're of like different sizes and stuff.
Yeah. So there's still kind of that mysterious like feeling of like, what the hell is this thing? Like just like a giant octopus attack.
Well, like it has like teeth is for suckers, so it's like sinking into the like the flesh and stuff, and yeah, it's gruesome. And the way he describes it is incredible. I don't know if this is like how he describes these kind of scenes in other books. There weren't really any scenes like this in the Gunslinger that I remember, but it was graphic.
Scene,
it was graphic.
Yeah,
and then based on that too,
really cool. I love that.
The spiders.
Oh, the spiders from the pharmacy,
spiders.
Right?
Oh my gosh!
Also creepy.
Their webs are like acid.
Oof.
And they burn through you.
So good.
Oh, they're creepy. They were the creepiest. Those were the creepiest monsters, I think.
Yeah. So I love the monster aspect of it, of course. But now I think I tend to agree with you that I enjoy the buildup of just the humanity aspect, and like the greatest thing to fear is man itself, because we are our own worst enemies. And so I think it's just the way he is able to tell that is a very interesting approach, especially with all the different characters that he has within such a short book to kind of tell that story. I thought was very, very well done.
Makes me wonder too, like what would happen if she wasn't in that store? Would you have a different outcome, or would someone else kind of take up that mantle? Because this is very similar to Yellow Jackets.
Oh,
yeah. At least the Yellow Jackets portion when they're young. There are a lot of kind of echoes, I think, in that part of it. It's also like, I mean, that's based off of, it takes inspiration from Lord of the Flies. You can definitely see some Lord of the Flies influence, I think, here, or at least echoes between that and the factionalization and stuff like that of the groups and how they eventually turn on each other for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So the monsters were really cool. What was going on, the dynamics that were going on. Within the store. Let's talk about the changes, because that will get us to the end of the story. There are two big changes I wanted to talk about. One is with the soldiers. So there's one additional soldier, I believe, in the movie, The Great Sam Witwer, that is not in the book. And the book, the soldiers that are in the grocery store do hang themselves in the back area, and they're discovered by, I believe it's Ollie and David, and we have that scene, I believe, in the movie as well. But in the movie, we have the additional scene where Sam Witwer is not one of the soldiers that hanged himself, but he becomes the target of all of Mrs. Carmody's followers, and that's where I believe it's the butcher lifes him in the gut, and he's the first blood sacrifice, and he's thrown out into the mist to be devoured by the creatures out there. Yeah, the creatures get Sam Witwer. And so that's, in my opinion, a pretty big change. I don't think, my recollection now from the book, they don't actually, there is no blood sacrifice, quote unquote. That scene doesn't take place with the Sam Witwer character or any other character. It's only in the book they attempt to try and kill the David's son. David Drayton builds the puzzle and figures out, because it's misty where these creatures are from, they have bad eyesight. And so what they do is they hunt by scent, and hearing, I presumably. But I think he really focused on the smell, I think, in the book at least. I don't remember in the movie, honestly, if this even was part of it. I just remember in the movie they wanted to get out because they knew the writing was on the wall with Mrs. Carmody. And part of the problem too was like the stronger-willed people that were not swayed by Mrs. Carmody, they all, for whatever reason, decided to go together to the pharmacy. And so that was a nice way of just getting rid of all of the people that potentially would have stood against Mrs. Carmody in one fell swoop. So anyway, the ending in the book, they get out. Difference. Just like in the movie, they are trying to flee. Mrs. Carmody catches them, wants to sacrifice the boy, wants to sacrifice Amanda to the mist. Ollie shoots her in the gut. And I think they just leave her in the book with the gut wound. In the movie, he then shoots her in the head too, like really make sure that Mrs. Carmody
she's
died.
He's watched plenty of horror movies.
I guess. Well, he double tapped her. Isn't that what the zombie term is? They'll always, I think they said that in Zombieland. One of the rules is always double tap to make sure the zombie's dead. And so they flee into the mist. Ollie is dispatched quite easily, quite quickly. In the book, it was almost like an afterthought. Like he's just, oh yeah, Ollie didn't make it with us. Okay, moving on. I thought, wow, that was give Ollie some laurels or something. My God, the guy was your right-hand man for the entire book. But no, tentacle around their waist, gone. We got bigger things to deal with, like these dog-sized spiders with acid web, which are also out there chasing them as they're going to the car. But they make it to the car, and it's in the movie, it's Dale, Amanda, and the son, I think, with David. In the book, it's the son, David, Amanda, and like the old woman who I think was the son's nanny or something. And so they drive off. Really, I love the scene in the movie, and he describes the scene in this where they're driving past the storefront, and like the lights from the car hit the people, and they're all just staring out at them from inside the store, and they all look haunted and zombie-like, if you will. It's just such a haunting visual. Yeah. The humanity's been stripped from them, and it was just. It's such a captivating scene in the movie, and I think it's described pretty well in the book too. But anyway, so they drive off. They get out of the parking lot, and they're driving around. In the book, they go back to the street that leads to David and Billy's house because they want to go see if his wife and Billy's mother is alive. But apparently, there's I think a tree or something, or a telephone pole or something. Power line is down. And in order for it to move, you have to get out. And they're like, don't get out. They'll smell you and kill you. And he wrestles with this for about a paragraph and decides that, I got to remain a father to my son. So peace out. Deuces, Mrs. I think Drayton. I think is that the name, the family name? Yeah. They're gone. They go. They drive off. And they end up where they keep driving, and they have the scene where the big giant dog-like creature walks over them, the dog elephant, which they have in the movie, and they end up at like a Hojo's or something like that, some hotel or motel, and the others are sleeping, and he's writing the story down on like a napkin or something in case someone stumbles upon it and realizes, oh, someone else is alive, because they're still in the mist. The mist has persisted as far as they've gone, as far as they've driven. He's got to figure out how to pump some gas without getting eaten down the road because they're running close to an E in their car. But he apparently there's like a radio or something in the motel, and he hears like one word, Hartford or something like that, suggesting there's some hope, that there is still some pocket of humanity out there, and this gives them something to aim for, a goal to reach. The movie ending. Everything is similar minus the Hojos and the hope. Because they do run out of gas and they're still in the mist, but they stay in the car. They have the gun that Ollie used to kill Mrs. Carmody, and it has 3 bullets for 4 people. And they kill it themselves. And David kills his son. In order that they would not suffer a terrible death at the hands in the bowels of some extra dimensional creature. But because there's only 3 bullets, obviously, then he can't kill himself, and so he's left alive in the car with all these 3 corpses. So he decides just gets out and starts walking. He's like, "We're done. I'm gonna become the meal for some creature." And then, I can't remember if he hears a horn or sees like lights, but all of a sudden there's something on the horizon that it looks like the missile is coming towards him. And it's like, isn't it it's this huge military contingent.
Lights. I think it's headlights.
Is that what it is?
It's like
but
the military.
And they're like burning away the mist and stuff like that. And I could have sworn, because the other person, Carol from The Walking Dead, is actually in the movie.
Yep.
She leaves because her children are home.
Yep.
And I believe, am I mistaken? Isn't she there with the military too or something? Like, she actually survived. She made it.
That they rescued or whatever. And so,
So to add greater
with her
despair
sons,
on the shoulders of David Drayton
with her sons.
Yeah. And so I think so that's the end. So I guess there's kind of hope in the sense that like they're pushing back the mist or whatever, and they're able to kill the creatures.
Yeah.
But obviously he's just like on his knees in tears, in despair. He killed his son, and the two people. Yeah. It was just there. All I had to do was wait. Give it one night, one sleep.
Yeah, just sleep it off.
In the apocalypse. Give it one sleep. You never know. Maybe the military will show up the next day. Do you know why they changed the ending for the movie? I have no idea. I was curious if you had ever heard what made them decide to go with that, because that is a truly horrifying ending. This is more so like a zombie type of ending where it's like they're in a bad situation. It's very bleak, but there is like a sliver of hope that they'll get out of it. Clearly, there is hope that they're getting out of it in this movie, but there's no hope for this guy. So have you ever heard like why they changed it? So
this article that I read about it, where Darabont, I think
so. Yeah, Frank Darabont, I think is his name.
Yeah. He talks about the reasoning why he changed the ending, and he said that the movie, how he wanted to tell it, was all grounded in this idea of hope and having hope in humanity and like hope in a situation and stuff. And so how he interpreted it was that he, like Carol, the Melissa McBride character, she actually plays a pivotal part in it because she's the first one at the very beginning to be like,
and no one will go with her and help her.
I'm going to have hope that I can survive going into this mist and be able to find my sons. And so she leaves. And so it's like a full, coming to the end where you see her again, that she had hope in herself and like the situation and just that she would make it, and that paid off, versus staying at the grocery store and just kind of, just hoping for something to, I don't know, whatever. But
wait, are you telling me she's actually the main character?
Maybe.
Is that what you're telling me?
Maybe. Because
I mean, the way you just described that's like the main character's arc, kind of full circle.
Maybe. I mean, it's just kind of like it's full circle in that's like the thread, right? Because she asked for help. I mean, that's like one of the iconic scenes of the movies. Is like at the very beginning, she's asking for someone to come with her to help her make it to get to her sons, and no one wanted to do it. And so that was like your first blink at seeing that humanity is just not like willing to help this poor mom who just wants to get to her sons. And so no one would step up to help. But then she had the courage and the hope that she would make it to her son. And so it's just kind of like showing that. And so it's almost like that was kind of the idea. And so Darabont wanted this like kind of tragic ending to kind of just juxtaposition the two outcomes that could happen amongst all the other things that were taking place.
I'd say it's an interesting point, because it's like she was rewarded for her willingness to go. It's weird to couch that as like hope. That was more to me like desperation, because and that happens in the Carol characters in the book too, where there's this mother that's asking for people to help her, and everyone's just silent and lets her go. And I think some people even try to convince her not to go because they think it's dangerous. And so for me, it's like, it's not really hope that she was driving her. It was desperation and concern. And I guess the quote unquote hope that they're still out there and alive or something. I don't know.
Well, because I think that was one of the things is like, you don't know if they're even there. Like, don't you want to just like live now? Like, because they could be just dead or whatever. And she's like, well, I'm going to hope that they're.
Well, and on the flip side, the main character, David, is punished for, I guess, his lack of hope, if you will, in that sense. He did so much throughout the movie to kind of stay in place and not enter the mist until forced to do so by a deteriorating situation. And so it's an interesting juxtaposition in that sense.
That it does say that Stephen King approved of this ending change, which is big because Stephen King has notably been kind of
the anti-Shining.
Critical of how his stories have been interpreted in film. So
I mean, I can't blame him, to be honest. I don't blame him in the abstract because they're his stories. Like he wrote them for a reason, and I don't blame him for being annoyed because as I understand it, the Kubrick Shining was quite different than the book Shining, with some touch points here and there. But at the same time, if he signed away the rights to have any creative input, I have no sympathy in that sense. So there you go. There's my little.
You can voice your issues, but in the end,
But I'm glad that he was okay with this ending. And so we've talked about it. You clearly like the movie ending more than the book ending. I do too, but for a different reason, I think. So what's your so what would be your reason why? Is it because of the way that Darabont describes the kind of rationale? Is it because this is really like a horrifying ending, even though they're pushing back the creatures?
Yeah, so I liked it because of that reason, that it didn't end on like exactly a happy note, that it actually ended on quite a kind of depressing, sad note. Even though they're saying, basically insinuating that like they're defeating the mist and the monsters and stuff.
Humanity will survive.
Yeah, humanity will survive. But I liked the dark tone that the ending had on the main character, that he lost everything basically. So it's just a tragic ending, which I personally, I don't like endings that are always like happy ever after, roses and stuff. Like I like when there's a real possible tragic ending to a story, and that's one of the reasons why I loved it personally.
Well, I think it's a kind of a weird way to phrase, but I can't think of another way. It's the ending that the movie earned / deserved, with the way it was set up and told. It would feel very Disney-fied if they ran into the military. Yeah. So I prefer the movie version to the book version for a different reason, in that it's a definitive end to the story. And by definitive end, I mean answers. I despise stories that are left ambiguous at the end. Yes. One of the more recent,
up to your interpretation of how they
hate it. I despise it. Give me an ending. Stories should have an ending.
Well, now, if you want stories that don't have like sequels planned, like there might be a definitive sequel or whatever. Yeah.
But even there, most, I don't know, maybe I should say, but I'm just, the few movies I think of, like even movies that we know are sequential or part of a series of movies, they still tend to have an end. I mean, I think about like Infinity War. It was clearly there. We knew it was going to be 2 parts, but there was a definitive end. There was no ambiguity in that ending, other than like, how are they going to get out of this? How are they going to confront Thanos? But the book, there aren't any answers to what's going on. Like, we don't know how far the mist goes. Is the mist global? Is it worldwide? Did he misinterpret that one word? What are they going to do? They're going to wander the earth, maybe, I guess. I don't know. I hate that. I hated that ending because I hate those endings. The one of the more egregious offenders in recent memory for me is Inception. I love Inception, the movie. It's ruined because of the ending. Because he won't tell you. Christopher Nolan will not tell you if he's dreaming or if he's in the real world. And it drives me nuts. I hate those endings. I hate them so much. I can't. Oh my God. If I think too long, I'll start ranting. But and the Mist, the book version of the Mist, in my opinion, falls in line with those types of ambiguous endings. It drives me nuts.
I remember so that's when I got to the ending and I was like, what? Literally was like, no.
You can't end it there.
It's like, no. I hate those kind of endings too.
I mean, I get it from like the way it's like structured, because it's him. The story is him writing down what happened. Okay.
Sure.
But that feels like a cheap narrative device so that he doesn't have to give a definitive ending. Oh, well, he's only lived up to this point in his life. No. Give me an ending. And then, it's all ambiguous. It's implied that this is the whole mist came from because of whatever was going on at the military base. And they really hammer that home more significantly in the movie. And I think they even basically say that it was the military. They were dabbling in magic and science they shouldn't have. But in the book, I mean, it's just heavily implied rather than actually definitively established. Anyway, so that just drives me crazy. And that's why I like the movie ending better. But the way you described it, the way that Darabont looked at it, I never looked at it that way. That makes it even more interesting, that movie ending. Right. So, Deni, what are you reading right now?
What am I reading? I'm reading one of my
to move to our last couple
books.
segments. You're back in the Sexy Dragon universe. Which one are you on now? Is this the Dark Kings series? I think you've said in the past. You mentioned in the past.
Series, yep. Hold on, let me pull it because if they all the name titles all kind of blend. This one is called Smoke and Fire. It's number 9 in the series. It is
where there's smoke, there must be a sexy dragon.
Romance, and it's pretty good so far. It's good.
Is it living up to the Dark Kings name label series?
Yeah, I think so. I would argue this is one of the more popular Dragon Kings, so I would say it's
really
pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, is it Dragon Kings or Dark Kings?
So, well, I mean, Dragon Kings are the characters, I guess, in the book, but the series is called Dark Kings for some reason.
Oh, okay.
I did read some horror books though for October, and one of them was the book that The Ring was inspired. The movie The Ring was inspired by, or adapted by. So that was interesting to read, just kind of how they translate.
Did they get it to Mordor? The Eagles take them?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. But so that was a good one. And then Mexican Gothic was another one that I read. That's more of like a Gothic romance. Very good.
So well titled.
Very good. Yes. Very, very well titled. But the book itself, like the story is very, very good. So I highly recommend that one.
So how close are you to your yearly reading goal? We were talking about this the other day. You must be close now with a month and a half to go. Well, you're 5 books short? I think you're 3 or something like that.
If you're not counting the one that I'm reading right now, it'd be 4. So I'm still.
You are not finishing Fires of Heaven.
I'm not.
By the end of the year.
If I want to meet my reading goal, I need to just read some short ones.
I was gonna say, you go back to read some Goosebumps. Go find some Goosebumps and read those.
I'm behind. It's been a busy couple of weeks. Okay. I haven't had time to read.
Does Goodreads shame you if you don't reach your reading goal?
I have
no essentially emails like you should be reading. Why aren't you reading?
They just give me a big like fail ribbon. Like
yeah.
Better luck next year. Maybe you should reduce your goal. Yeah. That's what it'll say. Be like, damn.
Wow. That's like passive aggressive shaming. Maybe you should, not be so aspirational. Yeah.
Okay, so what are you reading now that you finished The Mist? What have you moved on to?
The Shadow Rising. I'm trying to keep up with you. I'm trying to keep pace with you. But it has small font. A lot of pages. I did finish though. I had to take a detour quickly because Brandon Sanderson's 4th secret project came out in October. The Sunlit Man. It's a part of his Cosmere books, his Cosmere universe. Okay. And it was, I think, the best of the 4. I only read 3 of the 4 because I only read his Cosmere stuff. He writes a lot of like kind of young adult stuff. Like I think he has kind of an Aragon type book, but set in like a sci-fi milieu. And so anyway, there was one of the secret projects was unrelated to any of this series, and it was just this kind of standalone story. And I also saw it didn't get very good reviews generally. So, but this one was really good. The Sunlit Man, one of the best Cosmere books I've read. He's produced. So very exciting for many different reasons I won't get into because I don't want to drop spoilers. It would require dropping some spoils. So I won't get into that. But anyway, so now that that's done, now that the mist is done, the mist is receded, the monsters have gone back to the dimension. So now I'm going back to the Wheel of Time because it kept turning. It just keeps turning. There are no beginnings, there are no endings to the Wheel of Time. But there are about 650 pages in this book to get through. So I think I'm like 2/3 of the way through. The book, yeah. Rand has not left for Ruidian yet. No. But the girls have left for Tanchico. So that's kind of gives you an idea of where I'm at. And which is also sounds like where the TV show is at. Because Rafe Judkins, I think, confirmed they're going to Ruidian and they're going to Tanchico this year. Or this year. I wish it was this year, but it's not going to be till probably 2 years because we got to suffer through more Rings of Power. But that's a topic for another. Talk about a horror show. The Rings of Power, my God. But that's a topic for a different podcast episode. Do you have for us an indie bookstore that you would like to shout out before we close this episode?
I will. I'll shout out. It's actually one I haven't been to, but our parents went to, since we were talking about House of the Dragon, some good George R.R. Martin. He owns a bookstore in Santa Fe, Mexico called Beastly Books that our parents swung by when they were visiting there earlier this year. Looked really cool. They took lots of pictures for me.
Got you a t-shirt, I think.
Got me a t-shirt. Yes, very cool t-shirt that says I read banned books. And so I just give a little shout out, a little love to his little bookstore that's down there.
Yeah, for those listeners, go ahead. Tell our listeners where they can find our content in all those different forms.
Yeah, so you can find our podcast episodes wherever you can get podcasts. So check this one out when it comes live. But other than that, we got some video content on the good old YouTube, some book reviews, as Joe mentioned, some Wheel of Time TV show recaps, which are fantastic and you should check out. And also on Twitter at the Pop Docs, and then also a little bit on the Instagram at the Pop Docs Pod. So come on and check us out.
Absolutely. And with those shout outs out of the way, we can officially close the Pop Docs Clinic for this episode. So thank you, Deni, and look forward to talking to you on the next episode.
Yep. Seagulls.